I draw up the plate, and then he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate, and then he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate. Niggas don't know what to think. Thought I get money, you change. What you thought we was the same? Still stay away from them clones. Niggas better leave me alone. Talking about niggas as low. Run with niggas who don't know you. Whoa, I make that zagging when city to city. You niggas not hot in your state. If it was money to get a hit Henny, we get it and never complain. Same go for the gang, and we split it up all the same. I can't really eat, let's stay straight, cause we go way back in the day. My day ones from back in the day, they still hang around me today. You wanna come round us, you can't. I'm rolling up loud, it's great. But mama, she bad but complain, cause I'm too in love with my dreams. And I gotta get on the plane, and go get this money with them. I draw up the plate, and then he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate, and then he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate, and then he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate, and then he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang.
I get the bag with the gang, taking that Zach to the bank. Henny be all in my drink. You niggas is stupid, you think that should change? You not even hot in your gang. Ain't nothing even hot about your gang. You niggas be lying about same. Be posting them pictures of guns for the fame. Niggas just look at me different now. Say that's your man, but he a clown. Don't fuck around with the fuck arounds. Little nigga, you should cut it out.
Low priority. What's up, gang? We're back. We're still here. Sorry about that. We got cut off. So we just wanted to come back, let you guys know we didn't just abandon you. What were we? We were talking about the Dark Matter 2525 video, and this notion of rejecting the God we don't believe in, and a little bit how it ties into the approach we take with conversations. Nitty was saying that, you know, this is why he errs on the side of being so friendly. And I think we see that with Nitty, right? I always appreciate that. To me, it's like you go with what you got, right? I admire that type of patience, and I think it's mostly the approach I take on an individual basis. I think I'm a little bit spicier in terms of my channel, because I think that it's good to have a content space for the ridicule. And to be honest with you guys, even the things that I say, I think are really profound. Like, so when I talked to my mom, I was able to express some of my real opinions about Christianity, such as, you know, I don't think black people should really mess with it because it's essentially the desire to be a slave. You can't be free and want to call somebody Lord and Master. You just can't. So it's contradictory to the overarching narrative of Black history. Like, if Black history means anything, it's supposed to be all about the journey from slave to free. And you can't really be free if somebody's your master. So, or just about how inconsistent with reality it is. Like, she had a situation where she was like 15 or something, where she has a rare condition that was diagnosed because a blood test came back or something, and at first they didn't know what it was, and they thought she was pregnant, because that's normally what the result of the initial test meant. Well, she flipped the shit and had my grandfather come down to the place and eventually had them do additional testing and found out she has this condition. Because, again, she knew as a 15-year-old girl, if I've not been with a man in a certain way, I'm not pregnant. I don't care what that test says, right? But now you have to, like, counter that fundamental part of reality, or talking about how I always say you can celebrate the fact that I'm a doctor. Like, to a black family, that's just a blank statement. Like, you're proud of someone who starts a business or goes to law school. You're proud your son got a PhD, but you're supposed to be proud of the work somebody did to accomplish that. And when you can't have a meaningful conversation about evolution, then you can't really celebrate my work. You can just, celebrate that I finished school and got a job. I mean, it just feels very hollow compared to being able to share what I do, why I do it, and why what I do is so important. And so I say all that to say that sometimes even the things that come from my perspective that sound very harsh, I try to have conversations, especially with people I care about. Now, if I'm just going at apologists on the internet, then I think I'm dealing with bad faith actors, and in that moment, I probably just don't care. But
Yeah.
when I'm dealing with, family and friends, even the harshest things I have to say to them, I try to say it as very plainly and as compassionate as possible, and with full awareness of the reality that it really does me no pleasure that this is the situation that we find ourselves. And I think people that appreciate you benefit from that. Like, you could say what you want about most of my relationships with my family or friends, but they're the type of people who, if I hit them with some hard news, they normally appreciate me for being willing to do that. Um, so I think there's a how you go about it that's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephanie, how do you feel about the notion of rejecting God? Because I don't know about you, but when I hear that, it betrays something about my Christian history that really upsets me. Because I was a Christian for so long, that to treat me as someone who just rejected God as though, whatever, that bugs me. But I don't know how you respond to those type of conversations.
Do you mean other people saying that you've rejected God?
Yeah,
Or
and not that it's something people roll up on me and necessarily say to my face every day, but hearing that be part of the conversation about how Christians often respond to atheism, when I was such a God seeker and a God lover. And what I was actually looking for was just, something more to just hang on to and show my love of God, because I was such a God seeker and a God lover. That's the thing that's crazy about my family. It's really that the identity of my family is so God centric, but it's so positive. It's like literally feeling like God's at the core of your family. Like God is your family. Like I felt like Jesus is just one of my siblings. I don't know. I felt so close to Jesus. It was ridiculous. Right. And so to hear people say that to me, like, oh, you reject God, it's just kind of like, what? What are you talking about? It just like cheapens the whole thing.
before I answer that question, can I point out that the original artists who performed Gloria were them, which is relevant to somebody's remark in chat.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's I don't think anybody ever rejects the notion. Some people may reject the notion of the numinous, of the God feeling,
Sure.
as it were. Um, but my own view is that that feeling is a human feeling. That the feeling of something beyond yourself is a human feeling,
Mm.
and it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't have to relate to anything other than your uh your feeling of community, your feeling of something beyond yourself, because there are feelings that, when you study science, when you experience, when you listen to a symphony, when you go sailing, when you do anything you really love to do, you feel like you feel a certain fullness, and it's not all about you.
Right.
And do you have to call that God? I mean, a lot of people do feel that that's God. That's when you experience God. It's
Sure,
like, you
sure.
drop
Yeah,
acid, I saw
yeah,
God.
yeah.
But it's not all about you. It's about that. It's about that feeling. I think it's been called the feeling of the numinous.
It's interesting because I definitely relate to that because I would have said the same thing in so many of those conversations that those moments of transcendence, for lack of a better way of putting it, were our way of experience a little bit of that godness, our way of, spiritual awakening and all of that. Um, and now I feel like that robs us of what you talked about. It robs us of the humanness. To me, it robs us of the like. Why shouldn't it be that way? Of course, it should be that way. There is something bigger than us. There is we are all a product of the effort of so much in so many people, and the same can be said of our influence. And man, it's just I've changed a lot. Some of us have been on a very long journey. We're very different people now than we once were. But at the same time, it's like I get it. And I do remember that vague sense of connection really being quite powerful to me. And it certainly doesn't make someone unreasonable to connect that to God and to want to celebrate that or want more of that. And it's certainly what I think the congregational experience is engineered to get out of you repeated, like reliably.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get back into the stream on my other device here.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
It's I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why a God is necessary, even in that. So it's when what I that's what I try to explain to people who that that's what I tried to convey to people when I left the faith. It's like, well, you're rejecting God, and I go, no, not at all. I just am rejecting the idea of God. That's not.
Mm,
It doesn't need to be. It's not something that's essential to, do I reject you? No. Do I reject uh do I reject the idea that there are moments of transcendence in everybody's life that everybody feels? And do I reject that emotional feeling? Of course not. Because they're real. I mean, everybody does experience
mm,
that. It's a part of being human.
right.
But it's a part of being human, and it's not something that's, you know, it's not something that requires a deity to experience, and it's not something that requires a deity to validate. It requires other human beings to
Absolutely.
validate. It requires a hug. Something as simple as that.
Yes, free hugs. I was also moved by the part where you talked about not being able to choose what you believe. And I think that's overlooked a lot. Um, it's part of what's made me a lot more concerned about religion as a form of bigotry or discrimination because I recognized that if we truly are non-believers, we can't help that. And if um, you know, that's going to resign me to